Okay, I have to be honest with you. When I first looked at the research for today's deep dive, I actually thought I'd made a mistake.
It does look like a strange mix at first glance, doesn't it?
Strange is putting it mildly. I thought I'd printed out two completely different shows and stapled them together. On one side, I have this very serious breaking news from January 2026.
Right, the royal family.
Yeah, this whole conflict with Princess Anne and the palace machinery.
Very high stakes, lots of court intrigue.
Exactly. And then, right next to it, I've got this deep, chaotic history of the 1972 movie Superfly.
A very different world.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, how on earth do we get from Buckingham Palace to 1970s Harlem? I mean, what is the thread here?
It sounds like a stretch, but this is one of those times where if you dig just a little bit, you realize these are actually the exact same story.
The exact same story.
They are. They're both about the gap between the official narrative and the hidden reality. In both cases, you have these massive institutions, the monarchy, Hollywood, trying to present a slick, finished image.
The press release versus what's actually happening in the room.
Precisely. And what we find when we dig in is that behind that polished curtain, it is absolute chaos. It's cruelty, it's corner cutting, it's guerrilla tactics.
So our mission today is to look at the cost of that efficiency. Who gets hurt?
That's the core of it. We're looking at who gets chewed up so the system can look good, whether that's erasing a royal or destroying an actor's life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the palace. The sources are calling this the winter recalibration,
I know.
which frankly gives me the creeps. It sounds like something you do to a car engine, not a human being.
It's a very intentional choice of words. So, to set the context, we're looking at the recent move to remove Queen Camilla from ceremonial influence. Now, normally, when the palace does something like this, they dress it up in tradition.
Right, it's a retirement or a shift in duties,
Yeah.
something dignified.
But this time, the official line was modernization and procedural adjustment.
That is just incredibly boring language.
And that's the goal. Make it sound so dull that nobody asks any questions.
Nothing to see here, just recalibrating. But the report suggests it was anything but boring inside the walls.
No, the sources call it an erasure. And this is where the machinery part comes in. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a negotiation. It was basically a ghosting.
Ghosting. You mean literally they just stopped talking to her?
In an institutional sense, yes. The breakdown shows that invitations just stopped arriving. Briefings were redirected. Her name was just scrubbed from future agendas. No one sat her down and fired her. The system just acted as if she no longer existed.
That is incredibly cold. I mean, we expect protocol, but that feels personal.
And that's the thing the sources highlight. It wasn't personal, which somehow makes it worse. It was risk management.
What does that mean?
The aides and staff realized her influence was no longer needed for this new, modernized vision. And in a hierarchy like that, proximity to a falling figure becomes a risk to your own career.
So people are afraid for their own jobs. They see the ship sinking and they jump off.
Precisely. One source describes staff avoiding eye contact with her in the corridors. Not out of malice, but because they didn't want to be associated with someone the system had marked for removal.
That is a terrifying work environment.
Yeah.
But this is where the story turns, right? Because normally the royals just take it.
Right. Never complain, never explain.
But someone broke rank. Princess Anne. And this is what really caught my eye, because Anne is the ultimate loyalist. She's the rule enforcer. She doesn't do feelings.
Which is exactly why her intervention was so significant. If this came from one of the younger royals, you could dismiss it as drama. But from Anne, it sent a shockwave.
So she must have felt it was serious. Was she defending Camilla as a person?
That's what's so fascinating. It wasn't about friendship. She wasn't arguing that Camilla should keep her power. She was criticizing the process.
Okay.
And the word she used, this is key, was cruelty.
Cruelty. Wow. That's a heavy word to throw around in a palace.
It is. And for them, it means something specific. The monarchy runs on discipline, on sacrifice. Anne has lived her whole life by those rules. But cruelty implies a loss of control. It implies the institution is indulging in something excessive.
So she thought that ghosting was just gratuitous, like you can fire someone without erasing them from history.
She saw it as a dangerous precedent. Her argument was that if the institution can just delete decades of service with no dignity, no farewell, no soft landing, then the crown loses its moral authority.
It's like she's saying, if you can do this to a queen, you can do it to anyone.
Exactly. It was a warning about the survival of the institution itself. She realized that efficiency without empathy eventually turns the public against you.
And did it work? did the machine stop?
It stuttered. The palace is never going to issue a retraction. That's not how they work. But the reporting says the machinery slowed down. The tone shifted from total erasure to just distance.
So Anne forced the system to blink.
She did. She acted as a check on the system's natural drift toward coldness.
Speaking of systems drifting toward coldness, or maybe just total chaos.
Yeah.
Let's pivot. We're jumping back 50-plus years to 1972. The movie industry.
A very different kind of machinery, but the principles are shockingly similar.
I have to admit, when I watch Superfly, I see this incredibly stylish, cool movie. The clothes, the car, the music, it feels so perfectly executed. But the notes here say the production was a disaster.
Disaster might be kind. It was a hustle, a complete hustle from start to finish. What you see on screen is the polished surface, but the reality. They didn't even have a full script.
Wait, how do you make a movie without a script?
Well, they had something. The writer, Philip Fenty, turned in a script, but it was only 45 pages long.
45 pages. Isn't the rule like 1 page per minute?
Roughly, yes. A feature film needs 90, maybe 120 pages. 45 pages gets you a TV episode.
So the director, Gordon Parks Jr., realizes he doesn't have a movie.
He has half a movie, so he has to pad it.
Pad it? Okay.
You know those iconic scenes? Priest just driving his Cadillac through Harlem? Or those long, slow shots of him walking down the street?
Yeah, those are the best parts. They set the mood. I always thought that was just, high art.
That wasn't an artistic choice. They were killing time. They needed to stretch the runtime to get it to feature length. They were literally saying, okay, walk slower, drive around the block one more time.
That is hilarious. So the style was actually just panic.
Necessity is the mother of style. And it worked. But it shows you how fragile the whole production was. And that wasn't even the craziest part. The money situation was worse.
I assumed this was a big studio film. Warner Bros. Or something.
Not even close. No studio would touch it. So the financing came from, well, 2 dentists.
That's just your kitty.
2 black dentists from Harlem. They put up the seed money. And the rest was funded by maxing out the personal credit cards of the producer and the writer.
They put a feature film on Visa and MasterCard.
Basically. And at one point, the money actually ran out. They couldn't finish. So Gordon Parks Jr. had to make a very awkward phone call to his dad.
His dad being Gordon Parks Sr., a legendary director of Shaft.
Big rival movie at the time.
The big corporate studio-backed rival. And here's the twist. The star of Superfly, Ron O'Neal, had actually auditioned for Shaft.
Oh, really?
And he was rejected by Gordon Parks Sr.
Why?
The source says he was rejected for being too light-skinned.
Wow.
So now, the man who rejected him is writing a check to save the movie starring the guy he rejected, directed by his own son.
It's just this tangled web of connections.
And because they had no money, they had to break every rule. This was guerrilla filmmaking in the truest sense. They had no permits.
So if the cops showed up.
They ran. My favorite detail is how they lit the night scenes. They couldn't afford generator trucks, so they literally climbed New York City lampposts and tapped into the city's power grid.
They were stealing electricity from the city to make a movie. Just splicing wires on a lamppost in Harlem. Can you imagine trying that today?
You'd be arrested in 5 minutes. But again, on screen, it looks so gritty and real.
Because it was real. The props weren't props. That famous car belonged to a real pimp named Casey.
Our real pimps.
Who was actually in the movie, in the nightclub scene.
Eh.
The clothes came from the costume designer's own closet because he used to be a hustler. There was almost no line between the illegal world they were filming and the illegal way they were filming it.
It sounds kind of romantic almost, sticking it to the man. But we have to go back to our theme, the human cost.
Exactly. Because just like the palace had a victim, Superfly had one too.
Ron O'Neal.
Ron O'Neal. We see the character Priest, cool, in control. But the man playing him was a classically trained stage actor. He did Shakespeare, he'd won an Obie Award.
And now he's playing a drug dealer.
And he hated how the movie turned out. He was trying to play a tragedy, a man trapped in a life he wanted to leave. But the machinery of the film, the cool music, the clothes, it made the lifestyle look like a celebration.
I read about the cocaine montage. That was a big issue for him.
He felt it was a commercial for cocaine. He wanted to show the pain, but the film showed the glamour. And the cost was his career.
Because he was typecast.
Forever. Hollywood only wanted him to be a pimp or a dealer. It erased his range. He even directed a sequel, Superfly TNT, to try and redeem the character, but it flopped. He died feeling trapped by that role. The machine consumed him.
It's the same story. The institution survives and looks great, but the individual gets erased.
But just like Princess Anne was the conscience in the palace, Superfly actually had a conscience too, and it came from a place nobody expected.
The soundtrack.
Yeah.
Curtis Mayfield.
This is one of the most fascinating moments in pop culture history. Usually the soundtrack guy just writes songs that fit the scene. Here's a chase scene, give me fast music.
Right. It's background.
But Curtis Mayfield read that 45-page script, and he agreed with Ron O'Neal. He thought the movie glorified the wrong things.
So did he quit?
No! He decided to debate the movie in the movie. He wrote the soundtrack as a counter-narrative.
How do you even do that? How do you debate a movie with a song?
Take the song Freddy's Dead. In the movie, Freddy is a side character who gets killed. The movie moves on. But Mayfield writes this incredible, soulful anthem entirely about him. He forces the audience to mourn the guy the movie wants you to ignore.
So he's singing about the consequences while the screen is showing the glamour.
Exactly. He used the lyrics to warn the audience. And the incredible thing is, the soundtrack made more money than the movie. The critique was more popular than the thing it was criticizing.
That is incredible. It's like a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
He slipped the message inside.
And here is the dark irony that brings us full circle. Even that soundtrack, the conscience of the film, had its own victim.
Johnny Pate.
Johnny Pate. If you listen to that album, you hear these lush, cinematic strings and horns. That's what makes it a masterpiece. Curtis Mayfield was a genius songwriter, but he wasn't an orchestrator. Johnny Pate did that work.
But he didn't get credit.
He got erased. And this is where we get a legal term, dictations.
Dictations? What does that mean?
That's what the album credits said. Instead of co-written by Johnny Pate, it said, arranged from the original dictations of Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah, what does that mean legally?
It's a trick. It implies that Mayfield hummed every note and Pate just wrote it down like a scribe. It strips him of his creative ownership, his royalties, his co-author status.
That's the same thing. That's procedural adjustment.
Yes. The palace used procedural language to erase a queen. The record label used legal language to erase an artist. It's the same pattern. You have the shiny final product, and behind it, someone is getting ghosted to keep the narrative clean.
It seems like, whether it's 2026 or 1972, institutions just naturally drift toward this. They want the movie to hit, the recalibration to be smooth, and they'll run over people to get there unless someone pulls the emergency brake.
For the palace, that was Anne saying this is cruelty. For the movie, it was Curtis Mayfield singing Freddy's Dead.
But even then, sometimes the machine just wins. Ron O'Neal never escaped that shadow. Johnny Pate had to fight for years, and Camilla was still, in the end, removed.
The machine is designed to win.
So why does this matter to us? We aren't queens or movie stars.
I think it challenges us to look at the polished narratives we see every day. A corporate press release, a news story, even the entertainment you watch. We see the finished product, but we don't see the 45-page script. We don't see the people who were erased to make it happen.
It makes you wonder, if we could see the internal memos behind the things we admire, would we see a masterpiece?
Or would we just see people stealing electricity from a lamppost and ghosting their colleagues to keep the show running?
That is the uncomfortable question.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling most of the time the answer is the latter.
I think you're right. It's usually the lamppost.
Well, that's something to chew on. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.